Paris was quiet that evening, its streets glistening from the rain that had passed just an hour before. The golden glow of streetlights reflected off the wet cobblestones, and the soft hum of distant conversations filled the air. Inside an intimate, dimly lit restaurant near the Seine, Brad Pitt swirled the wine in his glass, staring out the window at the city that never lost its charm. He had come to Paris to escape, just for a little while. The noise of Hollywood, the never-ending headlines, the legal battles, it all weighed on him. Paris, with its quiet streets and whispered romances, gave him a sense of solitude he had been craving. The restaurant wasn't crowded. A few couples, an older man reading a newspaper, a young woman scribbling poetry in a leather notebook. No one bothered him here. That was the beauty of Paris. Sometimes, even the most famous faces could fade into the background. Then, the door chimed. Brad glanced up absent-mindedly, expecting to see just another stranger entering. But it wasn't a stranger. It was her, Angelina. For a moment, he thought he was imagining things. She stood there, wrapped in a long coat, her dark hair swept back elegantly, her sharp eyes scanning the room before they landed on him. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, followed by something softer, something familiar. She hesitated just for a second. Then, as if deciding against walking away, she stepped forward. Brad sat up straighter, his fingers tightening around the stem of his wine glass. He hadn't seen her in person for months, maybe a year. Their conversations had become brief, transactional, revolving mostly around their children and legal matters. But here, away from all the chaos, the past seemed to linger between them like an unfinished conversation. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said as she reached his table. Brad smirked, trying to ease the tension. "Paris has a way of bringing people together." She nodded, then glanced toward the empty seat across from him. "Mind if I join you?" Brad gestured toward it. "Please." For a few moments, they sat in silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, just the kind that settles between two people who know each other too well. Finally, Brad spoke. "How are the kids?" Angelina's expression softened. "Good. Pax is into music now, producing beats in his room all day. Zahara's loving college, and Shiloh. She's been dancing non-stop." Brad chuckled. "I always knew she had rhythm." Angelina smiled. "A real one this time." "Yeah, she gets that from you." A waiter came by, and Angelina ordered a glass of wine. Brad watched her, noticing the way she carried herself. Still strong, still poised, but there was something else. A tiredness in her eyes, maybe. Or maybe he was just imagining it, projecting his own exhaustion onto her. "How's everything with you?" she asked after a sip of her wine. Brad shrugged. "Same old. Work, travel, trying to stay out of trouble." She raised an eyebrow, amused. "Are you succeeding?" "Most days," he said with a grin. A comfortable silence settled between them again. The background music played softly, some old French jazz tune. After a while, Angelina sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I don't regret it, you know." Brad looked at her, his brows furrowing slightly. "Regret what?" "Our time together." She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "We had good years, Brad, despite everything." Brad exhaled, his grip loosening around his wine glass. "Yeah, we did." It wasn't an easy thing to admit. Not after everything they had gone through, not after all the fights and legal battles. But it was the truth. They had loved each other once. Not just in the way Hollywood painted it, but deeply, messily, beautifully. They had built a family, shared dreams, fought for each other and against each other. And even though it had all crumbled, the foundation had once been strong. Angelina swirled the wine in her glass, staring at it for a moment before speaking again. "Do you ever wonder if things could have been different?" Brad didn't answer immediately. He thought about all the times he had asked himself that same question. Maybe, he finally said. "But I think some things are meant to happen the way they do." She nodded slowly, as if she had already known that would be his answer. Outside, the rain started again, tapping gently against the window. The warmth of the restaurant made it feel like they were in their own little world, just for tonight. Angelina glanced at her watch. "I should go." Brad didn't try to stop her. He knew this was just a moment, a fleeting conversation between two people who had once been everything to each other. She stood, adjusting her coat, and before leaving, she leaned down and placed a soft kiss on his cheek. "Take care, Brad." And just like that, she was gone, leaving him alone with the quiet hum of Paris in the night, a glass of wine, and the echo of a love that once was.